Hello, Patriots. Welcome to Friday's show. Friday shows are a little bit different. They're also a lot of fun for Lewis and I because we get a chance to sit down with some of the people who help make this show a possibility. And we thank you for supporting our sponsors, and we thank our sponsors for supporting us. And today is no different. We have Matt Geiger with us, and you know Matt from Midas Gold Group. I'll put up the slide right here, MidasGoldGroup.com. He's been an avid supporter of us. We've really enjoyed working with him. Lewis met him in person down in Arizona and said, he's the guy. We need to work with this guy. Why? Because he's full of authenticity. He's transparent. He's honest. And he looks out for the little guy, which is very strange in this market. Typically, that's not the case. What you normally find is a lot of these people who sell gold and silver, they're just call centers. They don't actually have the product. Matt's different. He actually has a storefront, and you could walk in there if you wanted to, and the product is there. He has the gold, the silver, whatever you want to invest in. And he's been tremendous to speak to. He's becoming a closer and closer friend every day, and we're excited to bring him on today. But before I introduce him, let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Lewis Herms, the better-looking half of SBG News and Views. How are you, my friend?
That's so wrong. Don't put me up on a pedestal like that, Robert. I'm just as ugly as you are.
I'm not going
Robert,
there.
it's great to see you again. And Fridays are an interesting day for us. Based on the information that Matt brings to the table, I'm sure this video will have some longevity through it also. I look forward to it because this is a lot more. This is, by the way, folks, this is not a pitch program. That's not what this is about. There will actually be a Q&A, and Matt's going to go into probably financial stuff that you may not even be aware of, and certainly stuff that I want to learn about. That's what's exciting when we get together with Matt.
Yep, absolutely. So let's bring on the man of the hour. Matt, welcome to the show.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks
so
for
good
having
to
me.
see you.
To see you both. And you're both very handsome. That helps.
Says the youngest, most handsome of all, right?
Exactly. That's easy for you to say.
Easy for him to say. Look at those locks and look at that smile. I mean, he's got it all.
Throwing it out a little, you know. It's getting hot here in Phoenix, so I'm getting a little bit of a tan. As I was just telling you guys, I drive a convertible, so that roof's coming up now. It's just it's like living on the surface of the sun, man. It's crazy out there. But it's nice, you know. I got a pool at home, so that helps.
Hey, any truth to the theory that when you're in Phoenix, you have to use oven mitts to drive your car in the summer?
You know, there could be. I know that a lot of the construction workers and a lot of the people that are out in the field, they will literally heat their lunch up on the front of their car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you don't want to leave it on too long because you will literally overcook your food.
Wow. Yeah, well, wow. Phoenix.
Intense.
I guess I won't be going there until maybe October, right? When it starts to cool down a little bit?
I would say October. You just missed the nicest part of the year.
Okay.
It's actually, if you can get through like the 4 months of crazy heat, which really, I mean, you stay inside most of the time. You go outside, you jump in a pool. It's not that bad. But the rest of the year, it's some of the best weather in the world.
Oh, awesome.
So what you're saying is when you heat your lunch up on the front of your car, that's actually free energy, right?
Free energy, yes.
It is, yeah.
So the people from Arizona are just ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
I love it.
Funny you say that because solar energy actually is very efficient out here. Like most parts of the country get solar panels. It's a waste of time. Out here, it actually makes sense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And here in San Diego, too, it makes sense. You know, we theoretically are supposed to only have 9 days of rain a year, but that's changed in the last couple of years. We get a lot more than that now.
The weather machines.
Oh, boy, the weather machine in action.
No, come on. This fake weather manipulation, that doesn't exist. That's just a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy, damn it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's such a conspiracy. That's why Tennessee outlawed chemtrails, and that's why Texas has a bill up to get rid of weather manipulation. And there's actually a huge. Oh, you mean it's real?
What?
What? Are you they cloud seed? No. HARP? No. It's amazing. Isn't it fun though, Matt, that virtually everything that was a conspiracy theory 4 or 5 years ago is now conspiracy fact?
It's unbelievable. I call the people that call us conspiracy theorists, I've come up with the term, and I actually got it from a comments section on the Gateway Pundit, but we can call them coincidence theorists.
Oh, I love it. Love
That
it.
is good. That is, I'll change it because I've been calling us conspiracy factualists. I like them coincidence theorists. That is beautiful.
Oh, brother.
All right, Robert, you want to roll into the
We
questions?
have a lot going on at the universities right now. A lot of these protests, a lot of people have been saying what I've been saying, that these things are going to roll out, Matt, and these things are going to roll out into our cities over the summer. Of course, universities will be closed for summer break, right? And a lot of these protests are sparked by paid agitators, as we know. We've seen proof of it now, just the same way as January 6th was. This is going to roll out into the streets, and it's going to be in every city with the ultimate goal of creating a lot of chaos. So let me get your opinion, your take on this, and say, okay, what can we expect as an impact to the financial system as we get into these summer months?
Usually things are pretty quiet during the summer in the markets, right? Most people take vacations. People are away. They kind of let their guards down, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we see the financial crashes from a biblical standpoint during the harvest season, right? September, October. So that's when people, right, they're getting back into the swing of things, and then boom, the crash happens, and right, you lose half your money, and you restart, and the scam gets repeated. I think it's going to be pretty quiet over the summer. I just read in the news. I wanted to pull this article up, but we have another bank failure. So quietly on Friday, meaning last Friday, a week ago, the FDIC announced the first federally insured bank failure of 2024. The publicly traded Republic First Bancorp, ticker FRBK, which did business as Republic Bank, in an unsettling sign of the times, this federally insured bank was trading at 1 cent on Friday, down from 27.5 cents last September when we first reported on this dire condition. So yeah, probably what'll start to happen is they're starting to admit bank failures. They're doing it on a Friday, of course, to control the news cycle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Maybe go into the weekends and just go into their own world. So I think this summer you could see more and more bank failures. It's just, what's the problem? There's no reporting of it, right? So they're not going to tell you. Why isn't this all over Fox News? Why isn't this all over MSNBC or CNN? Because the fake news runs cover for the banks. That's what's going on. So you really have to be looking at this stuff, right? As being in the business that I'm in, I'm hypersensitive. I'm always looking for this stuff, and I bring it to people's attention. So it's use your own discernment, read between the lines, read the writing on the wall. It's there. I think the summer you'll see more stuff like this, where everybody's on the beach just hanging out, and then probably come September, October, we could see a crash. I mean, who the hell knows? It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the election. If we have an election, I don't think personally we will.
Right.
Clear
myself up here, and that may be the impetus to literally cancel any November election. That, coupled with all the chaos that we might expect this summer, we may be in for a turbulent summer. It may not be as quiet as we might expect. It's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way, Matt, that it may be quiet this summer because people are not going to be paying attention. Certainly, Lewis and I are going to be paying attention. We'll be on top of it all the time because that's what we do. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Certainly an election year, there's a lot of, the October surprise may be bigger than we thought.
Everything's at stake for the deep state. Everything.
Yep.
They can't let Trump back in the White House. If we open investigations in these people, we're going to find treason. I mean, we know the punishment for treason, right?
So it's interesting also, they're the baddies are hitting us on all fronts right now.
Yep.
So the climate change front is obviously one, and they're going to use that in order to forward their control agenda against us. 9/11, the Patriot Act, right? What did they do after J6, right? Anything they can do to limit. Here's what's going on with the student protests that people aren't talking about, which kind of blows me away. So we know that the student protesters, or many of the student protesters, just have a problem with what's going on in the Gaza Strip. This is the one time where we have to separate our ideologies and say, well, maybe the students don't have it all wrong. But then we need to look at it a little deeper and notice that there's paid agitators, just like J6, from Soros and the Rockefellers, right, are paying agitators to go in there and stir up the crap. Now, there's a multitude of reasons why they do that, but the one biggest reason is There's something called the Anti-Semitism Act that they're trying to push through right now, which would be the most egregious assault on the First Amendment in the history of the United States ever. Is that a coincidence that they're trying to get this act out? Literally, if you were to say anything, even factual about Israel or Jews, right? You're not just an anti-Semite. Now you could be held accountable financially and go to jail according to the act. Talk about the suppression of free speech as far as they can push it. So I caution people to jump on the students as hard as they are and say they're supporting Hamas. They may not be supporting Hamas. They may just be supporting people, but the agitators want it to look like that, because the more that you can show that, then they take away your freedom of speech. And ultimately, that is one of the biggest keys that are here that for some reason people just aren't even seeing that.
I know.
Yeah, it gets lost. It gets lost in the noise.
Yeah.
Here's a conspiracy theory for you. What if Israel created Hamas? What if the Mossad is actually directing Hamas to create that tension between the two? Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't al-Baghdadi of ISIS, wasn't he part of Mossad?
Yeah. Well, Robert and I actually said that on the show before, right after the attacks. I mean, we already know that the CIA created Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan to fight against the Russians, and then they suddenly turned against us, and then to be the fall guy for 9/11. I mean, that's just the reality of stuff. So you're right, 100%.
Yeah, it's misdirection built on top of misdirection.
Yeah, there's always intent to this stuff, and that's
Right.
why I brought up the Anti-Semitic Act.
Yeah.
That's their intent is another way to pull back on our freedoms as much as they possibly can. You combine that with the climate change one, COVID restrictions, and all this stuff. This is all very calculated, but it's amazing to me when I go onto X, formerly known as Twitter, how people just blatantly take a side. They put there's no thought in it. It's like, guys, you're being manipulated. you don't understand. You're actually being puppeted to forward this hate agenda on both sides so they can push their personal agendas. It's just, I hope people start to see the bigger picture on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it when I saw that anti-Semitism bill that they're trying to pass. I thought I was reading the Babylon Bee. I did not believe that it was real at first.
It's real.
Yeah, I know. Scary.
Yeah. You would think it would be fake, right?
Yep.
But it is absolutely 100%.
I thought it was. I said, there's no way this could be real. This is America. We have freedom of speech. You can't do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the WHO is trying to take our freedoms too, which that will never go through without a 2/3 vote. But it's the attempts are coming at us from every angle right now.
Yeah, and it comes a point where there's too many fronts for all of us to focus on. If there's one front we can all focus, we can get together, we can defeat it. But when there's 20 fronts, it's a lot harder. And I think that's the game they're playing.
Yeah. Agreed.
How are you feeling about all this, Matt, in terms of what you're seeing with your clients? What kind of concerns are they having? What kind of questions are coming up more frequently? Are you seeing any trending anywhere? More fear, less fear, more confidence?
I mean, I don't like to see people in a state of fear because I don't want people to act out of fear.
Right.
I want people to feel good about, I want people to feel relieved when they do business with me in terms of gold and silver. I want them to feel like, hey, my money's protected. It's in a better position going through these times. But yeah, I mean, I think from just the general perspective, I think people understand that things are bad. They just don't understand how bad they are.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because, you're not going to find the information in the news. The news is going to hide this information until they want to let it out and disseminate it to the public. But yeah, I mean, I think most people, especially your audience, they understand what's going on. They know, they understand that this is an election year, that there's probably going to be some serious problems here ahead. It could be in markets. Certainly why we're seeing the uptick in gold price. It's because the dollar's losing value.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to continue, right? It's not that gold's getting more expensive or more valuable. It's just the dollar's losing value. So it's taking more of those dollars to purchase that same ounce of gold. Silver, right? I know somebody had a question about silver about, hey, why is silver not moving? the banks highly manipulate silver. I think we talked about this in the last episode, and that is, I think what the silver and gold, for that matter, manipulation really represents, it represents a collusion between the politicians and the banks. Because why would J.P. Morgan get away with silver rigging in the way they do it? It's RICO. It's so criminal. And these guys, they make, billions upon billions of dollars doing it, and then they get a little slap on the wrist and say, don't do it again. And they're still doing it. They don't care. But I think the reason why they do is, A, the banks make a lot of money shorting silver, right? Because what they do is they create, let's say for every 1 ounce of silver they have, they can write up on paper 100 ounces, right? And what they're able to do is control the supply. And if you can control the supply, you can control the cost, right? So what do? They short the silver. They make money with the price staying low, right? They make a fortune doing that. The politicians let them get away with it. This is where the politicians come in. They love it because, hey, if gold and silver really took, if gold was $100,000 an ounce and silver was $20,000 an ounce, what would that say about our money? It would say that it's worthless.
Right.
People would start looking at the politicians and start saying, what are you doing with our money? So it actually serves the political interests of what the banks do to manipulate gold and silver to suppress it, right? Because it runs cover for what they're doing, passing these, multi-trillion-dollar budgets, right? They're not even budgets. It's bullshit is what it is. So everybody's scratching each other's back, right? And as the great George Carlin once said, it's a club and you ain't in it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting too is you brought up the fines that the banks may pay. And I mean, you can even go Microsoft, Facebook, whenever they pay fines, they look at it as a cost of doing business. Yeah. They don't look at it as a fine. It's like, if it costs them $400 million, they're like, well, that's just our marketing budget. So that worked out really well for us.
Exactly.
That's the way they look at it. So the public goes, oh, that we got them, they got fined. They're like, no, it is literally a bottom line cost of doing business for them, as long as they don't go to jail. And by the way, it always comes short of that, as we've noticed.
Yep.
And that's intentional because of the political collusion, just like Matt brought up. It's just brilliant.
Matt, are you seeing the trend with a lot of politicians investing in gold and silver now? Is that what they're doing as well?
I mean, it's tough to say what the politicians are doing. I could tell you about Gold Bar Bob. Bob Menendez of New Jersey. He was getting the payoffs from Egyptian government. He was getting it in gold.
Really?
He's getting a lot. They went to his house. They found, $500,000 in gold bars. And that's just what they found in his closet, like these people are probably being paid. I guess it's a good way to keep money off the radar for these people, right?
Yeah.
It's a good way to pay somebody under the table. Not a very legal way of doing it, but I guess it's a way. But yeah, I'm sure these politicians are loading up on gold. I mean, look at the what's his name, Patrick Byrne. He created was it Overstock?
Overstock, yep.
Overstock, yeah. I mean, people don't remember, but when he was in the news, maybe about 4 years ago, he took like hundreds of millions of dollars and stuck it into gold. He's like, I'm not even playing any games. He's like, I'm just putting this in gold. He wanted nothing to do with anything else. And I just bought his book. I haven't read it yet, but he seems to be one that has been running ops for many years on behalf of the White Hats. I mean, to my understanding, Patrick Byrne has had Hillary Clinton accept an $18 million bribe, right? Her and James Comey, right? Not to get too much into it, but wasn't James Comey on the board of HSBC Bank?
Yeah.
Right.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. Every time Mueller went into government, Comey got out. Every time Comey went back into government, Mueller went out. And what did Comey do? He helped launder that money out of Russia on behalf of what's his name? Forget the guy's name. He's a spy. He's the British spy. He's a U.S. citizen, but he gave up his citizenship. Became a British spy, then went over to Russia, took out Russian industry, kind of George Soros style, and then got the money out. His name will come to me. But in any case, yes, I do think the politicians are buying gold, but you'll never know what they're doing.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point, though, is you get around the tracking, the paper trail. If you're trading gold, if I'm giving you a bar of gold for whatever you're doing for me, there's no paper trail. There may be when I bought it, but then nobody knows what happens to it afterwards.
It's a way. I think the more you see this economy and this monetary system going to the garbage, I think you're going to see more and more businesses accept gold and silver as money, right? Because if we know anything about the Q operation and Trump and what this is all about, it's got to come from a grassroots movement, right? It's almost like you don't want one person saying, hey, we're going back to gold and silver. No, it's almost like you want to see the money supply decline, right? People look for alternative methods of payment, right? And then you get a grassroots movement where, hey, Jim who sells cars down the street will sell me a Corvette for, a couple ounces of gold. They might start doing that. The dollar starts losing value the way we're expecting it to. I think you're going to start seeing a grassroots movement in gold where people just say, hey, we'll trade outside of the oversight of it. We don't need the government. What the hell do we need the government for?
How many states have made that legal now that you can trade, you can do transactions in gold and silver?
Screw big government. No, I'm joking. But
don't be joking about that.
I had Mark Fincham sitting right here behind me last week. He came in. We just put that up on my podcast. And he was in Congress. He was actually responsible for the legislation when he was in Congress here in Arizona. He actually was responsible for the legislation to bring back gold and silver as money, and it actually bypasses the IRS legally.
Well, here's what's really sad. It is absolutely already legal to purchase with gold and silver.
True.
But because of the corruption and the involvement in the feds, now the states feel it necessary to actually put laws on the book to make something legal that is already legal.
Right. A gold and silver American Eagle is considered legal tender by the government.
Exactly right.
That's why I recommend to people specifically getting gold and silver Eagles, is because you are plugged in to constitutional money. Right. An interesting law about the gold Eagle is that gold Eagle has to be minted from gold that was mined within the United States.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Does that
fun fact with Matt Geiger?
Yeah, fun fact, right? Full of useless information. It just poses the question where it's like, okay, if somebody comes in, maybe wants to save a little premium on the front end buying, let's say, a Canadian maple, right? Or buying a 1 ounce Philharmonic, gold Philharmonic, right? Austrian. Can those coins even be melted down in the future to make U.S. coin? According to the law right now, they can't.
Interesting.
Right? So that's where I can justify maybe paying a little bit more for that gold Eagle or that silver Eagle, is because it plugs you into the constitutional system. And at the same time, there's no future cost to you. In other words, to maybe there's a currency exchange that you have to go to take your Philharmonics. Well, that guy who's running the currency exchange maybe wants 10% of your money.
That's right.
So what does that premium cost you then?
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Shall we look for questions from our audience that have posted them here?
Sure.
Okay.
And folks, because we're going to be short on time today, no questions in chat.
One question is the SWIFT still operating solely on ignorance of the masses? Because one tweet from the BRICS saying we no longer acknowledge the dollar and it's over? In other words, are we still using the SWIFT system?
What was the first part of the question?
Is the SWIFT still operating solely on ignorance, the ignorance of the masses?
I mean, Switzerland is so corrupt, right? That's a
You're in my wheelhouse, brother. Bring it.
There's Lewis's topic right there.
There it is.
There's a couple spots in the world that are the hubs of the deep state, right? We've got the Ukraine, right? That's where they launder the money. The Swiss, right? That's where all the private banking gets done. As far as BRICS, I mean, I'm really not too concerned about BRICS. I kind of take the Wano Savin standpoint on it, and that is, our country is sitting on so much gold and so much silver under our own feet. We have so many resources here that, to me, the concern is not what these other countries are doing. I say good for them. Let them find prosperity. I hope they do. I want to see them, right? Clear out your corruption, just like we all got to do that. But we have so much wealth here that whatever these other countries want to do is perfectly fine with me. I don't think BRICS, the only thing BRICS I think really affects is just the fact that, yes, in the current system, what's happening is these countries are moving to the Chinese yuan, right? The real issue is the fact that they're replacing the US dollars that these countries have typically sat on as reserves, right? So countries, right, for your audience, I'm sure they know this, but I'll say it anyway. Countries would use the US dollar as sort of a means of stability. So if the local currency went south, they could fall back on the dollar, right? That country doesn't go into chaos. Well, now these countries are, the BRICS nations are coming around, going to countries saying, hey, buy into our currency, buy into our gold-backed monies, right? What could go wrong? This is a gold-backed currency. This is fantastic. Well, those dollars that these countries have been sitting on for decades, those dollars are now going to flow back to the United States. That's what's happening right now.
Yep.
So what is that going to do? That's going to saturate our money supply. That's what's going to start to create hyperinflation. The second problem is that, okay, if no one wants the dollar, who the hell's going to buy treasury bonds? Right? There's only one entity that can still buy them, which is the Federal Reserve. That's what they're doing. So the buyer of U.S. Treasuries really comes down to just the Federal Reserve. If the Federal Reserve couldn't just print money and just do whatever they wanted, everything would already be over. So really what it means is that our treasury bonds are going to become worthless. And yes, I do think we're going to find ourselves in a situation where our money is vastly devalued. And that's what people have to see, is they have to see that trend already. It's already happening. So this is why you're seeing gold prices moving up. They're going to continue to go higher, in my view, because the media is going to have to admit that the dollar is losing value. It will continue to. And then at what point are you jumping ship? Are you going to jump when everything's at the bottom and gold's at 5,000? Or are you seeing this trend now? Or are you jumping ship now while gold's still relatively cheap, right? Or silver for that matter. So that's why I think it's very important for anybody considering gold and silver to be preemptive, right? Don't wait for the events to take place, right? As the expression goes, once you see it on the news, it's too late. That directly applies here. Get your supply now. Position yourself now. It's like if you got an IRA or 401k. It's like, what do you think is going to happen to the markets? They're going to tank too, right? The stock market, the way the stock market works is it runs off confidence in the debt market, right? The debt market is the treasury bills. So once the stock market, right, and again, this has to be admitted on mainstream TV for it to become real, but once the stock market recognizes there's no stability in the debt market, then the stock market collapses, right? And then when the stock market collapses, where does that money flow? It's going to flow to the commodities, the tangibles. Think of commodities as tangibles. And obviously gold and silver being monetary tangibles as opposed to coffee or soybeans or corn. I joke with people, I say, your money's probably better sitting in, corn and soybeans than it is sitting in the stock market right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're only partly joking, though.
Not entirely.
Yeah, not
Exactly.
entirely.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you would say about the mainstream media doesn't tell us, therefore we don't really know. But let's go back to what you said about the Federal Reserve printing money. In the conspiracy theory movement, the theory is that the Federal Reserve has already been dissolved by President Trump, and it's being propped up to look like it's still there. What's your thought process on that?
I would think that you would want to have a controlled destruction of the Fed, right? Have them be the ones to take all the blame, have all the debt and all the problems on their books, and then take the bankrupt U.S. corporation and say, hey, here you go, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Take it back, right? And just hand them back what they've basically done to us. Yes, the Treasury back in March of 2020 took control over the Federal Reserve and what they could do. However, it's still the Federal Reserve. It's still an entity. A lot of people didn't hear about that. I think it's going to come down to optics. And when the blame has to be settled, you're not going to want to blame the Treasury. You're going to want to blame the Federal Reserve. And what the Fed has is they have an on-balance sheet and they have an off-balance sheet. The on-balance sheet, I think, has an estimated, I'm just guessing here, I think it's somewhere between $8 and $10 trillion. Tremendous amount of money. No one's ever seen the off-balance sheet. The Fed's never been audited. I think that off-balance sheet has $2 quadrillion. Quadrillion.
Wow, amazing.
Wow.
And the key is the Fed has never been audited. Amazing. I think we're in fun times right now, but I think it's going to get a lot more fun when they really start taking down these entities, because Robert and I say here all the time, I think everything goes the way it should. Less than 10% of what I call big gov. Big gov is big pharma, big gov is big education, big gov is big agriculture, so on and so forth. And of course, government, judicial system, all of that stuff. I think we're going to get under 10% of what we see now, and that will be the efficiency portion of the way government should run.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when this country... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, it just hit me. Maybe we should change that phrase. Maybe government shouldn't run. They should walk. Maybe they should crawl.
Maybe it should just go away.
Yeah, you know what? It's short of anarchy. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, the federal government, I mean, when this country was founded, to my understanding, had like 5 people in it.
Well, yeah, and originally, even the office of the president was completely different than it is now. They were only supposed to be involved in national emergencies. That's about it. And then they would do the reason why they only had their main speech once a year is because that's the only time people would want to hear from them.
Right, right.
I mean, that was just fact,
Right.
but now it's completely flipped on its head, which is intentional, of course.
Yeah. I mean, you have, groups like the EPA, the ATF. I mean, these are completely unconstitutional organizations. I mean, the EPA has done more damage to the environment than anybody else has. I mean, the ATF, I mean, I'm no fan of bump stocks, right? I don't care about bump stocks. I don't have an opinion on them, right? If somebody wants to use them and have fun with it, go for it. But, they just passed bump stocks. It was just a rule that the ATF can now enforce because they got SWAT teams, right? They have SWAT teams and you don't.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? That wasn't legislation they put through Congress. So it's not really a law. So these organizations that you think are, the Environmental Protection Agency, these people aren't protecting anything. These people need to go. They're completely illegal, unconstitutional. And I think, from what Juan talks about, the bankruptcy of the United States and how Trump will return at that point to walk this country through bankruptcy. I look forward to that day because through that bankruptcy, in one fell swoop, you get rid of all these organizations overnight.
Well, that is
To me,
what we
that's
call the deep state, right?
the deep state. Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly what they are.
Yeah.
And that's what excites me. That's why everybody should be excited. But protect yourself. Do what you can. Protect the finances. Get the storables, right? Get the, make sure you got enough water. Make sure you got the comforts. But other than that, I think everybody should actually be not scared, but very excited. I'm very positive about the future.
You just gave me my new business, storables for deplorables.
Storables. That's great.
Love
Perfect.
it.
Somebody will take that .com before we're off there.
Oh, yeah. Before we're off the air, it'll be done. It'll be registered, I'm sure.
Somebody will get go ahead, get it. That's my gift to you. Take it. Run with it.
They'll take it and then they'll lease it back to you. See, they'll create a business out of it, too.
It wouldn't be the first time I've been dumb enough to do something like that.
Matt, how about IRAs? The IRAs, for the most part, traditional ones are invested in the stock market, mutual funds, yada, yada. Transferring that over and making that, precious metals based. What's involved?
It's really simple. It's, you're transferring the funds tax-free, penalty-free to a self-directed IRA, right? A self-directed IRA is just the type of IRA that can hold physical gold, hold physical silver. I know a lot of people like to store it at home. To be compliant with the IRS guidelines, you do need to use an IRS-approved facility. I like the facility down in Texas. There's a couple facilities down there just because, if there is chaos in the streets, which I'm sure there will be in certain pockets of the country, I don't think, a place like Dallas, Texas is going to be one of those places. And what's nice is you can transact in the gold. You can always get it mailed to you. It's product specific. So if you do a gold IRA, you get your gold eagles, silver eagles, Del Canby bar, if that's the direction you want to go, or your Canadian maples, whatever it is. It's all product specific. That goes from my vaults, which are about 100 feet away from me. That goes to the depository. And then you just move the money tax-free, penalty-free, right over to your self-directed IRA and just purchase the gold and silver doing that. I always tell people, it's like, hey, things get shaky and you really start feeling, losing confidence in what's going on. Just have the gold or silver delivered to your doorstep. You can get it delivered. You just have to pay the shipping for it. Just get it delivered from the depository to your house, right? If you start feeling uncomfortable. So it's like, yeah, you're giving up the IRA at that point. But hey, some people, they're even doing that. Some people are so paranoid about what's about to happen. They just say, to hell with the IRA. I'm just going to cash out, pay the taxes, and just do a cash purchase on the gold or silver. I personally work with the depositories. I feel very good about them. I don't think anybody's running off with your gold or silver. It's all logged. I mean, everybody criticizes the IRS, but they're actually overseeing your gold and silver to an extent here, right? So there is some security from them, right, in terms of, hey, you approve this depository, you have this stuff on your records. But yeah, I would definitely say it's a much better place than having it in the banks, because your investments right now, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what have you, it's just in the ether. It's just dots and needles on a computer screen. You're at the mercy of the banks, right? You could have the best stock portfolio on the planet, but are you ever going to be able to access that money through the bank that's failing? That's what's nice about the gold IRAs. You've effectively taken that money off the digital bank ledgers, turn it into something real, right? And that's tangible. That's, actually, in your hand real. And it's not part of the banking problems, the banking ledgers, which is where all this stuff, that's where all the derivatives are, right? We could do a whole show on just that alone. Is I think what it really accomplishes, it gets you out of the banks, out of the dollar, and out of the markets, right? And then on the other side of this, right, there's probably tremendous amounts of investment opportunity. I think, investors out there should feel very excited, not about right now, not in this failing system. It's going to be on the other side of this, right? And the more, kind of the way I look at it is the more we get into the future, right? Here we are in what, May. We're going to have better, right? We're going to start getting closer to the event in June, July, August, October, right? So we'll be able to see what's going on. The further we get into the future, we'll have better vision of what's coming. So it's like you could just park your money in a gold IRA, see what happens in 6 months. If you're really that scared, get it sent to your doorstep, right? I don't think it's going to require that. I think you can keep your money in these depositories just fine. But that's a common question I get, and I just say from experience that, you have all kinds of options available to you. So it's good to, I find that having a conversation on it at the very least is probably a good idea.
Yep. Can you do both? Can you keep some in stocks and some in precious metals, or was one or the other? Yeah. No, it's both. Okay, good.
Absolutely, yeah. You can move a portion of your IRA, right? If there's some, a lot of people have dividend-paying stocks. That might be hard to give up. You're making 8% a year just holding on to that stock. Not a bad deal, right? So yeah, I always tell people, it's like, hey, hold on to your dividend-paying stuff, move the rest.
Hey, good Robert, advice. Real quick, let's just use this as an opportunity because I'll tell you what's going on with messaging I'm getting right now is let's make sure we like, share, and follow. And if you're on Rumble, double check to make sure you are followed because we're getting attacked big time. I just got messages right now as we speak from Lisa Richards that said, even though we only use YouTube now to promote something, like promote this video, we just got a strike on YouTube today, and TikTok is removing our clips currently as we speak on weather manipulation. We've gone through this. This would be the third time where it all happens simultaneously on different platforms, which means for some reason, this week or the next 2 weeks, this is what they do. We've been through this a few times. The only way we can fight back, guys, is make sure you go to screwbiggov.com, right? And you make sure you go to the newsletter, click on our social media, because the next step, what they do, they've done this several times. So they will soon take down that YouTube and they'll take down that TikTok account. This is the goal. And by the way, they're pulling back videos from months ago. So, and it's just a 2-minute video that talks about, hey, go over here to learn about this, right?
Yep.
So very important, guys. This is just another time we've been through this. It'll be the third time. The hardest it ever hit is on True Tour 2, where for 2 weeks, even if somebody mentioned Screw Big Gov, Lewis Herms, or the Truth Tour, they would lose their accounts. So go to screwbiggov.com and also make sure you're on Robert's social media. You can pull that up, Robert. That's Renegade Media on Telegram. So if we disappear, you're on the newsletter, where our social media links will reappear right away. So don't fret if that happens. Just be aware. We're very calm about this. We don't get upset anymore. Robert and I understand exactly what's going on. But it was interesting that I was getting the live urgent messages in something Robert and I call backstage. I'm going, okay, here we go again. So it is what it is.
Yep.
So make sure, like, subscribe, and follow.
Very important to support the people who are bringing the truth. And obviously, there's some truths they don't want out there, so crazy.
Wait till they seize your bank accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me. There's protections in place for that also.
It's called converting your cash to something where you can store the value. This is the way I explain the gold and silver investments. It's a value store is what it is. The dollar is, it's a fungible. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And it could be like Venezuela. That dollar could go to be almost meaningless, almost worthless, not even worth the paper it's printed on very quickly as more and more countries abandon using it. So how do you store the value? You store it in a precious metal that will always be worth that value, whatever the new currency will be going forward, whether it's a digital currency or what, but it'll have that value. It'll store that value. Am I correct with that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. You're freezing your money in time, right? You should store the value. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Silver's not going to go to 10,000. Or gold's not going to go up to 100,000. You're not going to see that. It's designed. As we said in the last episode, it's a bridge. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Bridge. It's confidence.
Speaking about a bridge, let me bridge to the next question because you teed it up. Somebody asked, "Is silver going to equal what gold is? Will they come into par with each other?"
It's tough to say. You know, we talked about the manipulation before about silver. It's very hard for silver to really move from where it is right now. I think you really have to wait for a time where on the other side of this, everything will be repriced. So gold and silver, you know, could just be the difference between having nothing to do with price. It could be the difference between having money and not having money. You know, what is it worth, right? We're in a Federal Reserve system. We're being priced in Federal Reserve notes. I mean, yeah, if silver was allowed to run, I bet you it would be very close to the price of gold. There's a lot less silver out there than people think. You know, they make gold out to be much more rare than it is. The earth is packed with gold, right? And that's no knock on gold. I'm a big believer you should absolutely get gold. I'm not saying don't. What's nice about gold is it's very efficient. You know, so if you're coming to me with, you know, $500,000, $1 million, right, that you can fit that in a small briefcase, right? Gold's very efficient in the store. That kind of silver is insane. So yeah, I mean, I see it the way those people talk about silver. Yes, it probably should be very close to the price of gold. The problem is that they're never going to let it happen. That's the issue.
Well, not under the current system, of course.
Not under the current system. But yes, I do think as far as a value buy, if silver move closer to gold in price, right? I think gold is like 80 times the price of silver right now. You know, if it went from, 1 to 2, which sounds about right. Yeah, there could be some money making potential in silver. I don't like to promise people that, hey, gold and silver is going to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's something I've always avoided because A, I'd be lying to people, which I'm not going to do. And B, there's so many other factors that control the prices of gold and silver that you're trying to fight with, it's like one of those machines where like you kick the soccer ball at, it's like the electronic goalie. You just never put the ball in because the goalie is just always going to block it. Right? Those machines. It's like there's no way of really knowing it. But I understand the sentiments when people talk about silver in that way, and it probably should. It's just I think the reality is it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
I would just look at gold and silver as just a store of value. And if you have that expectation, you're doing great. And if it does go up for any reason, then you look like a genius.
Yeah, I think the beauty of silver is there's a lot more upside to downside on silver.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's such a smart buy. Not a financial advisor, but that's why it makes sense to me, because we know silver's price is being suppressed, right? So it'll never drop so much, but it has a potential to just skyrocket. So that's one of my reasons, and a safety net for the family why silver is so important.
Here's the urgency in precious metals. It's not price. I've realized it's not going to be the price of the precious metals that's the urgency. It's going to be your ability to get it. I don't know if I've mentioned this on this show, but something I was thinking is, I've grown up with some friends that have done very well for themselves, right? Great guys, good friends of mine, worth tens of millions of dollars. Went to school, went to elementary school, some of these guys. What happens when those guys realize that there's problems in the system? There's a whole class of people that have that kind of money. They're going to jump in and buy as much gold and silver as they can get their hands on. Mm-hmm. Right? So it really comes down to kind of what we were talking about before. It's like when the mainstream media admits something's going on. Right? At that point, that's when you're going to see all this big money just immediately come in and there's no gold or silver left to buy. There's nothing. That's why it's very important that people see the writing on the wall, be preemptive about it. It's like, okay, if you have to sit another 6 months or a year in your gold or silver, so be it. At least you're positioned. Right? I've been buying gold and silver for probably the better part of 20 years of my life. So I've been doing it over time. Now we don't really have that window of time where we can do it over a period of time. So yeah, I would say, consider, trying to get your hands on as much gold and silver as you possibly can before the media starts admitting what's going on in these banks. And I just read off that article before. We saw 6, 7 bank failures last year. How many banks can the FDIC bail out? There's only so much funding to go around.
Yep.
Right? So you have to kind of just use common sense and, see the forest through the trees.
Fabulous, Matt. We appreciate you so much. Tell our audience a little bit how you work with people when they call. Tell them about the strong arm techniques, the manipulation, the pressure tactics you use with them, and how you put them in a corner and shame them into buying gold and silver.
Yeah. I sometimes will actually ask people when I speak to them on the phone. I say, "Hey, Jim, do you mind if I just use a couple of high pressure sales tactics on you?" No, very simple. Just give me a call. I'm always happy to chat, especially with your audience. I love working with your audience because it's like you meet your friends. You meet the people who see the world in a lot of the same ways you do, and it makes doing the business fun. We have a good time. We do a good job for them, and just call me and definitely mention the show because I have some extra leeway to send out some free silver, or I can get you some George magazines or some Kennedy memorabilia or some Trump. I got all kinds of little odds and ends that I've picked up over the years, and I love giving it out to the audience that, I don't give it out to just any audience. I give it out to people that will appreciate it, will cherish it. I thought to myself, I was buying a lot of this stuff years ago, and I was just like, I'm going to make such a profit on it. But then I realized, I'm like, you know what? Let's just give it out to some people who, will just enjoy it. They'll appreciate it. They'll hold on to it for generations. To me, that's, I think, way more important than, listing it on eBay for, $20,000 in the future. It's like, I'm fine. I've done okay for myself.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, definitely mention the show. Give me a call directly. My number is 480-725-0536.
That's your cell phone number, right? They can text you as well?
That's not my cell. That's my office line.
That's your office. Okay.
Yeah. You can give out my cell. I don't mind people calling me.
No, don't do it.
No, don't do it. Okay. Excellent. So yeah, I will change that. I was telling people they could text you on that number, but they can't text you. Okay, good. Good to know.
Yep, that's my number. And thank you guys very much. Always good to see you both. And hopefully we'll see you soon here in Arizona. Where am I going to see you, Lewis? Are you coming to any events? Are you going to be at we're doing
I'm taking some time off from events. So the next speaking event I have is June 8th and 9th in Cape Canaveral, Florida, actually. That's at the Quantum Summit event.
Okay. I'll be at the Clay Clark event in Michigan. I think that's in July.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we can come visit you there. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, maybe the Quantum Summit event makes sense for you. So we'll talk about that offline.
You should. Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see all. Well, I won't see you. Well, don't worry about it. I'll see you on the next show. Take care, everyone. We love you.